electronically participated meetings. This is a new
Mr.
change in the Sunshine Law.
Mr. Chair, we can, Seth, we can go back to live streaming now. We'll come out of that executive part. I don't think there's anything else on there, John, sensitive in the agenda. Okay.
No, we're good.
Okay, let me announce that too, Eddie. We're now back live into our primary session on the new business item number 4, legislative requirements for electronically participated meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The legislature in the General Assembly in the last session passed a new requirements for governing bodies, which includes the districts, and how they handle electronic meetings where they have somebody participating electronically. This new rule becomes effective July 1, 2022. The requirements provide that the public does not have to be present or physically present at the location of the meeting to view or listen to a meeting if anybody in that meeting is participating remotely. They also must have the ability to provide a comment if comments are normally allowed during the meeting. Public notice for the meeting has to state that somebody will be participating in that meeting electronically, provide information, a link to be able to see that streaming real time, and provide the ability for anybody in the public to register and request to speak or at that meeting and participate in that by electronic means. The recording of that meeting has to be made and stored for 3 years, and a link has to be provided that is easily accessible to the public that they can click on for that 3-year period and listen to the meeting. Staff, we looked at this new requirement, and basically we have come up with a solution for that, and that is that we will be streaming our meetings that are electronically participated via YouTube. That link to that live YouTube stream will be provided on our website. And then once that meeting is concluded, that recording will be stored on YouTube, and a link to that recording will be made available on our website. So we have played with this and tested it on the Facilities Operations Committee, and we are doing it in this meeting as well. And hopefully that this will help us be ready for the meeting after July. But we just wanted to make this the board aware of this new law and our procedures, and we would be more than happy to answer any questions regarding that at this time.
Thank you, John. Any questions from any board member regarding this change of process to allow open access when we're meeting remotely using technology?
Mr. Chairman, we're the first in the state to do this so far, as I'm aware, and it's very commended John and the staff to take the lead in this.
But thank you, Mike. Thank you also for your legal review of it. I spoke with Mike on several occasions about this new change, so I think this is a good solution for us.
Mr. Chair, for fellow board members, that's kind of why we went through this exercise earlier with Seth being able to turn the live stream off. There's going to be occasions in the future over the next year where we have quite a few discussions on our site hardening project that we have and our site security enhancements, and any of those kind of discussions, because they're going to be showing us pictures of the sites and things like that. And we don't even, and we like to keep a lot of this stuff, well, we have to keep a lot of this stuff secret. So that's why we're going to be live streaming, but we're going to turn it off when we have sensitive discussions and things that are Homeland Security related, because the law allows us to do that. And also, if we have to go into executive session on anything that could be litigation wise, and our attorney would tell us that, and we can turn it off. But John and Seth have determined that we can turn it off and turn it back on. And even though we have to save these recordings for 3 years, like this meeting today would be a board of directors meeting, part A, part B, and the part in the middle that we deleted or didn't let anybody see would be the sensitive part. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page with that. And I guess the other question is, it will be when we're changing our bylaws of participation, because I wasn't clear, Mike. Well, I'll wait till we get to that discussion. I was trying to think that, well, a couple of issues, but anyway, I just wanted us all on the same page to understand that we kind of have to do this live streaming this is a way to comply with the law if we're going to keep meeting remotely. I guess that was my other question, Mike. Let me get it out now while I'm thinking of it. In your council brief to us, it kind of read like after July 1, we can't meet electronically. You have to meet in person. Is that what we're doing with this fix right here to fix?
Well, we can continue to do what we're doing, but other districts that I've been at already this month, have chose not to continue that electronic meeting because they don't have the capability like Hamilton County does to meet it. And so we're going to try to get maybe next year, hopefully, to get that restored to the previous level. But it was set up really to cover statewide agencies and not local district, but we got caught up in that middle of it.
I see. So we're okay. We can continue to meet electronically because of this fix that you've come up with. But then we can also, at some point, we know we're gonna have some in-person meetings, so we'll be okay to do both. So I'm clear on it now. When I read that, I thought maybe the new law was saying that we had to meet in person. I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
If I may, if we do this, I think this is a great option and appreciate people making it work. But if we do this and we have to go into a confidential session and we know it, maybe we can be more strategic and putting it either at the beginning or the end of the meeting so that the public doesn't have to chime in and chime back out. Just a thought.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, that's really good, Daisy. Thank you. Mike, I want to make sure that we're meeting the quote legislative intent of this change. So if you would have that conversation to make sure our solution kind of meets the intent of what the legislature wanted with this change, okay? We'll count on you to make sure we're okay.
Yes, sir, you are.
All right, thank you very kind. Daisy, thank you for that great suggestion. Any further comments? Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve. I guess right now, this new change. John, will you go ahead and go through item number 5? This is the proposed changes. How is that what you're doing in item number 5?
Oh, well, we haven't gotten to that yet, but I can do it. We have not moved there yet. We were still talking.
Do we need a vote on these new requirements?
No, sir. I don't
This is just
believe so.
information only.
Yes, sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Okay, great. All right, let's go to item number 5, please.
Thank you, sir. As part of the changes that we just spoke about as requirements for electronic participation in meetings and other changes that have occurred in the recent past affecting our bylaws, staff has made recommendations, and I'm going to share my screen real quick here, recommendations to update the bylaws to be in compliance with those. Can you all see my screen at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Going down and the changes that are recommended are highlighted in red. When you go down to Rule 4E, other requirements, all members of the board are subject to TCA 7-86-34, which requires that no member shall have more than 50% absences from meetings in a 12-month period. Prior to that, it was 3 or more unexcused absences. The state statute specifically changed and stated that it's 50% in a 12-month period. And we've talked about this in the past, but I think it's not in a calendar year. It's in an actual 12-month period. So we are tracking that to make sure that we're in compliance with that. And if we have a member that is getting close to being out of compliance with that, we were reaching out and letting them and the chair know as well. But this is a TCA change that was in place last year, Mike, I believe.
Yes, yes.
That we need to adjust our bylaws to be in compliance with that.
Mr. Chair, John or Mike, either one does, you know, the old law, it talked about unexcused absences, and this new one, the 50%, is there's no thing in there for an excused absence, it's just absence. Is that right?
Right.
That's correct. And that was an issue that we are looking at trying to fix, because you might have somebody that is part of the board with a medical issue, and you know, if the smaller districts, they may meet, you know, 4 times a year. Well, if they miss 2 of them, then they're off the board. And so there's some issues out there that were that are problematic with this, and so we are looking at that and trying to see if we can work something out for that with TN 911. But right now, this is no excuses.
John, how does this operate when a board member has, for instance, the sheriff has the deputy sheriff, or the police chief has the deputy chief of police sit in for them on a meeting?
Mr. Chairman, that's good under the state law.
Okay, great.
They have the ability to have designation.
Thank you. Great.
The next item, recommended change, comes down under order of business agenda. Because we have an order of business listed in our bylaws, and we are looking at the right for public to be recognized or to speak. If under the new statute, if our agenda gives that right, then we have to provide that. With the recommendation that we are going now forward with our meetings, is that public must submit a request to us at least 1 day prior to the meeting before they can speak if we're in electronic format. So to make that fall under the guidelines of the new statute, we have to remove any recognition or standard recognition of visitors or other members of the community in our meeting. So what we have done is we have removed those, and we've also added our awards and recognitions section, which we have started, and which is a great portion of our meeting. But we've just basically updated the agenda to reflect those changes.
Hey, John, it's Ted.
Yes, sir.
While we're doing this, is this something that we should also add in? Something along the lines of special briefing at the end of a meeting, if necessary, to comply with the law, since we just discussed that?
I refer to Mike, but I think we, by statute, we are already allowed to do those, to go out of session for appropriate areas without affecting our agenda.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, agree.
John, also, I'm a little confused about this part about we're striking recognition of visitors, but we're still going to recognize them if they give us notice that they want to speak. Is that what you're saying?
The way it's set up is we at a board meeting, if somebody has requested to speak, we have the ability at that when we're approving the agenda to add an item to the agenda to recognize that person. And so what we're doing is by taking it off of the agenda on an ongoing basis, it comes down to if somebody requests permission, then we will make that adjustment at the beginning of the board meeting when the agenda is being established. So it's a meeting by meeting for those kind of situations.
Okay.
If no other questions on this, the next area recommendation changes comes down to travel policy. G, under that current policy, it states that the treasurer or designee shall review the expense report and make a recommendation of payment to the board for any such amounts appropriate for payment and reimbursement. If compliant with requirements, the expense report of the treasurer should be submitted, reviewed by the chair, and should be then make a recommendation to the board. We do not do that. The director does that. So I act as the designee of the treasurer at this time to review expense reports and recommendation for payments. So this just brings us into compliance with how we are handling those travel expenses at this time.
Any comments from Daisy or others regarding this process?
I don't. I think it's good to have, it's pretty much an administrative task. So if the treasurer designee can be John, I think that's good.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
There'll be no more questions on this. The final portion of this is actually the participation of public at a board meeting. This is a new rule, and it states that no person except the board member or staff of the district has a right to address the board during the meeting, whether an individual person or a representative of a business or organization. A person who seeks to be heard at a board meeting shall submit an application no less than 1 day before the scheduled meeting to the board chair or director of the district. The request must include the individual's name and or company or organization name, telephone number, and reason for addressing the district board. The board may decide at its meeting whether to approve the request upon approval of the agenda. Any person granted the exception to the rule must limit the address to no more than 3 minutes. So this establishes the guidelines for a person requesting to speak to the board.
Then, John, this would not affect, like if the board wants to, if we put someone on the agenda that we're dealing with or want to hear from, that would be separate from this. Is kind of like civilians and people, members of the public just requesting to speak like they would at the city council meetings.
That's
And also, okay, and then also and like we've always had a place for PSAP representatives. Does that change this at all?
Yes, it does, because that is considered the public, and now they can request to speak as well. So they would, and that's my opinion. And again, I'll fall back to council, but because we can bring people in as part of our agenda to support any actions the board is looking at. But anything out of that would fall out to me as public. And so if somebody from a PSAP would want to come in and talk, they would have to request to do that. Is that correct, Mike?
That's right, Mike. Okay, and I'm good with that, because if the board knows, we've almost never in our history had a PSAP rep come to speak at that point of the agenda. Like you said, if we've got an ongoing issue or if something's come up that we've got to deal with Saudi Daisy or Lookout Mountain or any PSAP, really, they would be on the agenda and we would know it. So I'm okay. I just wasn't sure about, but I'm clear. Thank you, sir.
I would like to add that the city of Chattanooga has been doing this for some time now, and it does provide for an orderly meeting and keeping the quorum very professional when you really know that, because if you don't have these kind of guidelines, you may be in a meeting for hours if people can just jump up and grab the mic, and the quorum can be lost very quickly if you don't have these kind of guidelines in place. So I think this is a great process. It does not cut off access for our public at all, but it allows an orderly access to the board.
If I may see, I'm not sure the city requires a pre-approval before they come before. They do limit the minutes so that if people are there, am I right about that? Somebody that's there from Chattanooga? The public, if you're there.
I was thinking that at least at the beginning, I'm sorry, this is Chief Tucker. I was thinking at the beginning they required a pre-notice to the council chair when it came to council meetings.
No,
But then at the end, I think it did change to where they would just look at the queue and let whoever was on there. So I think it did change, but I think initially it did.
yeah, but just so you know, is this only for, what do you call it? Is this only for Zoom meetings or would it be for in-person meetings?
It'd be all meetings.
Okay, so that's, I thought that was a little, I think it's great for the board per se, but I thought it was a little restrictive in that a person would have to give a 24-hour notice in order to address an issue that's on the agenda. But, I'm good if that's what the state allows and it's okay. The 3 minutes, I will tell you, the city has had some issues with that one. The public, did they change that? I know they changed it at one time. It changes from council to council, quite frankly. They changed that to 5 at one point. But
They pulled it back to 3.
they have taken it back? Okay. All right.
And also, John, I guess we would need to have this notice in a pretty prominent place on our website so citizens would know they've got, if they want to come talk. If there's been some kind of an issue and they want to come talk to us, they need to know the process. They've got to do that to you. So we need to make sure that word goes out.
Yeah, this will be placed something on the website where the links to the meetings and information, so it'll be prominently displayed.
How about when we advertise meetings, will something be there to let citizens know when they're reading
We
that?
can, yeah,
advertisement?
we can.
That'd be
I
good.
think that would be great. Every time we're advertising a meeting, the public knows how to get access to it.
And Mr. Chair, one more thing, going back to what Daisy was saying, I guess for John or Mike, that last sentence there about let's leave it at 3 minutes, but should we have something in there that the board can expand their time if needed, if the board elects? Because what if the board wants to hear from somebody, but they're limited to 3 minutes? You know what I'm saying?
Mr. Chairman, the board has the right to waive the rules anytime. So that would no need to be stated there. That's just a given.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Go
question.
ahead, go ahead, Boyd.
John, are we going to require anyone wanting to speak to fill out a specific form?
That's what I'm thinking we're going to be doing is putting a form on the website for them to fill out and submit.
Okay. I'm just concerned about the term application. If there's not actually going to be a form,
Yeah.
An application, then we need to change that. And elsewhere, it's I think it's listed as the request. So I think it needs to be consistent. If there's not going to be a form, we need to just say written request. But if there is the form, refer to it as the application each time.
Change the word request to form.
Well, application to request,
Application.
submit a request, no less.
Yeah, if we're going to have an actual form, an application, then we call it an application. If we're not going to do that, or if we're not sure, perhaps that needs to just change to written request.
Written request.
I like that because it covers everything. It covers
Very good.
whether we have an application or not.
Right. So then you would just take application out,
Yes.
change it to a written request. Okay. I've run into that before where they require an application and you can't find one anywhere.
That's very good.
Tricky.
Very good.
I think that's a good catch, really. In fact, to Daisy's point, we don't want to make this seem so restrictive.
Right.
We're denying public access. We do want public comment. We work for the public. We're here to serve them, so.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, upfront, I'm a little skeptical of that, quite honestly. However, a written request, how do they submit it? You know, they can't mail it to you, that it has to be emailed. How do they submit that written request? Or that, you know,
That could be part of the website, or, you know, email it to the district and we have a general email list anyway for stuff coming in that we can.
John, if you would check with the city council though, on their website, they do have this request form that you can, it's interactive, you can fill it out and send it in. If you're requesting to meet with one of their subcommittees or actually speak to the council at the end of the day, and those requests really go to the chair of the council. I know because I had to do it. I had to present to one committee. You had to do that in advance online.
Okay, yeah, we will do that, for sure.
Great comments. Any other comments? Anything else, John?
Those are proposed changes to the bylaws, sir.
All right. Any other comments on the bylaws changes? Okay. Go ahead, Daisy.
I have one more question, and because I don't go to council meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Phil, you still go to council meetings?
Of course.
Okay, they do not allow people to now come up until then they have 3 minutes to speak. They don't do that anymore, right?
They do public comment at the end of council where any public member can come up and speak for 3 minutes.
That's, okay, so, but we're not gonna allow that, is that correct? I mean, there's not a podium, but if there are people, I'm just concerned about people showing up at a meeting and wanting to participate or comment and not being allowed to, because I didn't know, or because I didn't submit a written request and it didn't get in time, whatever. That's my concern there, because I know the council, I don't, you know, I just think it limits their abilities for public participation.
I understand what you're saying, Daisy, and this really stemmed out of the electronic participation in electronic meetings. Mike, if we change that to participation of public at electronic board meetings, would that basically just limit this action to a meeting like this? Because that's the issue is to be able to control this, we have to be able to know who's on the line and what they're doing.
Right.
You know,
And
this
I agree.
this brings a lot of complications to it.
Right. That's why I asked that earlier. Does this apply only to Zoom meetings? Because it does make total sense more sense for Zoom meetings, but if a person is in person, I'm not sure I'm a little hesitant to limit it for in-person meetings.
Under the law, we don't have to require anybody to have the right to adjust the board. It's only if we choose to do that, and then we can set the requirements of how they provide their input.
But I.
This board may be a little, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Daisy.
Well, so then, and I guess in this particular case, this board may be a little bit different from city council. I don't know, maybe. So if this board has less requirements as a public board, then okay, but I just still think, okay, I'm through.
I know Daisy has hit on something because I'm very sensitive to it too. I just would not want a member of the public to come and want to address the board. They may want to give a compliment to a life-saving deal, or they just may have an issue, and then we say you can't speak to us. I don't want to set that kind of tone and that kind of atmosphere. So how do we modify this participation at public meetings now, or in-person meetings? is really what I'm more concerned about, not the electronic piece. How do we modify this to ensure that can happen, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, if John, we go up to Rule 27. Yeah. These rules may be amended by the vote of the board.
Okay,
And you can suspend at any time. So that give you that requirement to overlook that requirement of the Rule 28.
and I see the chairman may suspend or invoke the rules at any time without objection. So if a person was there and really needed to speak, the board chairman could say, we will allow that access.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Daisy, does that kind of help?
It does, but if I was an individual and I didn't get my information in and I didn't know that, I wouldn't show up. You know, I just don't really, except for Zoom meetings, I don't really see the need to register.
Maybe we could leave that, looking at Rule 28, leave that first sentence, because it explains our rights. We don't have to allow anybody to speak, but then we could have two things in when it starts, a person who seeks to be heard, maybe that would be seeks to be heard in a Zoom meeting or in a digital meeting. They go through this process, and then we have another paragraph at the end that says, this requirement is not necessary for an in-person meeting. At the end of the meeting, we're going to ask them, but it'd still be nice to know who's going to speak. That's kind of my question to Phil. What, if the city council is requiring people to get online and have that interactive forum, and then they open it up at the end, why are they doing both?
We don't do Zoom meetings on council anymore, so it's all in person. And the process at the end to allow for public is just that 3 minutes, and anybody there that decides to show up, they don't have to have an application or fill out any form. Any general public can show up and speak on whatever issue on non-agenda items is how I recall it.
Right, and that's how I recall it. But it is limited to 3 minutes. I do think whether public or digital or video, we need to limit the time.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I can tell you how the county commission kind of did it. When we were doing streaming live, just like we're doing here, at the end, they still brought it up where this is the 3 minutes where the public can address, but they published a phone number and they had to call in, and it went to one of our secretaries, and she knew who was calling what in reference to, and then they got their 3 minutes is how they did it. So they weren't able to speak on the live stream, but they could call in and when they patched it in. So that's the way they did it while we were doing it on YouTube.
Okay. So I think what we're seeing here is that the electronic is a little bit different than the in-person meetings. And I really don't want to cut off access for the public when we're in an in-person meeting. And
Would the modifications that I've made help? Or
Yeah, except what Mike is telling us is technically, John, we don't, we have the right to not have anyone address the board even in a public hearing. We don't have to allow people to address the board, do we?
No, we don't.
That just means you want to prove it. It's a written request.
the only thing that I'm the reason for this is if we still want people to come and sit in our meetings and feel like they can participate without having to do an application or a request, if we stipulate electronic participation for Zoom meetings or any meeting like this, then that doesn't affect anybody showing up or give the public the opinion that they have to have a request, even if it's an in-person meeting. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes,
and I guess really the bottom line is we don't, even though Mike is telling us we have the right to not have anyone speak at a board meeting except, the board members and staff. that's not what the board wants. The board doesn't want to exercise that right. We want to allow people to speak, is I think what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
at least at a minimum, at the end of the meeting where you have public comment. I think that has always been healthy for us over the years to allow for that kind of access.
I think this does it for electronic meetings. Because for electronic meetings, what you're saying, what you're saying is, I can't get you on this Zoom unless you register.
right.
And
Right.
so in order to be able to make that work, professionally and smoothly, I need to know who you are so I get the information and register you.
Exactly right. And going back to what we did earlier, Seth needs the ability to, Seth and John need to be able to cut people off if we do something sensitive and then cut them back on. Although I like your idea, let's try to do those things at the end. But if we were in a person meeting, we would just ask them to leave the room like when we go into executive session. So yeah, I think you're right. I think this does cover what we're wanting to do.
I think that's a good fix.
Now, I will tell you though, what it doesn't do is what Chris said that the county did, and that you may not want to do that. It did allow them to do a phone number, and you don't have to do that. And I don't know that, Phil, I don't know the city, I don't recall the city allowing that. I don't think they allow that, so. Just
No, it's
wanted
an
to-
in-person meeting. They don't do phone calls or
Right.
stream things.
Yeah, I know they. Just wanted to make sure you knew that this does not allow for those calls that the Hamilton County Commission allows via telephone with a number to call.
And I would strongly recommend not doing that, and that really complicates process for us here and our staff to be able to maintain that and to do that. It's very difficult to.
Well, the good news-
But again, the way that it reads,
I don't know if we have the infrastructure to do that or not, to put that many people on hold and phone calls and manage it. So,
Well, the good news is that this meets the requirements of our new electronic law modifications. And we can always change this, so we can go
Yes.
forward and try it and then change it and see as we go. So
Yes.
we have the ability to do it as a board, so.
And actually, Mr. Chair, I guess for Mike, actually, the city and the county commissions, they don't have the ability to do Zoom anymore, do they? Because the emergency ruling is run out, but 911 districts can continue to meet this way, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So they've had to go back to live,
All right, any further discussion?
Yes, Miller, I'm good with
Okay.
this, how it's written. I would change the heading. I would move electronic to in front of board meetings. I think that's a little bit confusing, electronic participation at public board meetings. So
Thank
I
you.
would move that word electronic down further in the sentence.
Yeah, right in front of board. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Good
Good
catch.
change. Good change.
All right. There's no further comment. We'll entertain a motion to approve these recommended changes to our bylaws. Is there a motion?
This is Daisy. I so move.
Thank you, Daisy. Daisy makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'm in second.
All right, Chief Hyman seconds. Any further comments? Roll call, John.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Chief Hyman,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes,
Chief Tucker,
yes,
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes,
Brad Tucker,
Yes.
Chief Field,
Yes,
Dr. Brown.
Yes. Item number 6, the FY 22 end of the fiscal year line item adjustments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Each year, the staff has to have approval of the board to adjust the line item between line items of the budget to facilitate a balanced budget on all line items. So again, the staff request authorization from the board to do this.
May I, you want to take that off the
Oh, I'm
screen?
sorry.
Yeah. I will tell you one other thing too, the 3 minutes. I know that we're off that subject, but on any particular subject matter, I think we had a 9 minute. And if people wanted to share their minutes, they could do it. Meaning, if a person, you got 3 people, and they said, well, I'm gonna yield mine to this person so that they can have my 3 minutes. And I think they did it up to 9. But I think we just work through this and see how it works out. Sorry, thanks, next.
Yeah, I agree with you. We'll just work through it because, as Mike told us, we can always, if we want to hear from somebody, we can waive that, you know.
Yeah, and as long as the chair remembers that,
Right.
because it's, yeah,
Yeah, it's, the chair has really the flexibility to do that.
right.
So we'll be sensitive to that.
Okay, John, sorry.
But John, let me ask you, do we have this is really just you're wanting approval to move these line items around, but then you won't really know till in July how we really ended those line items, right? Are we supposed to?
No. Yeah, no, it's at the end of June, we adjust the line items to provide a balanced budget per line item. We do this every year. It's required by the state. This is just a formality of the board authorizing us to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying now. We don't have to do it twice. We're giving you the authority to move the line items to make the balanced budget. We're not spending new money. We're just taking our budget and rearranging it so all the line items are where they really are at the end of the year.
So each line item has the money to meet the expenditures for that line item.
I'm sure
It's not increasing any expenditures over the total budget that was approved.
I'm sure that Daisy will have some consultation on that process, right?
No, that it's an automatic process they do every year.
Okay.
It's really just administrative, anything that has a negative balance in the account,
Mhm.
and they reallocate it some from another account that has a positive. And so it's really no substantive change.
All right.
But now, John, you are pretty comfortable that we're going to end the year
Yes.
without having to add any more dollars.
Yes.
All right. Any further comments? Entertain a motion to approve the FY 22 end of the fiscal year line items adjustments.
Motion, Rogers.
Motion by Ted, is there a second?
Daisy, second.
Daisy, second. All right, any further comments? Roll call, please.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Chief Hyman,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes,
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chief Tucker,
Yes.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Brad Tucker,
Yes.
Chief Beal,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes. FY 22 surplus property report, John.
As required, we report to the board at the end of fiscal year, all surplus property for that fiscal year. And that is what is listed on this report. And all the property that is listed was previously approved by the board for surplus during the fiscal year. This is just a formality of at the end of the year total list.
Have you shared that list with any of the committees, the facilities committee or any other committee?
No, sir.
Would you please share that with at least the facilities committee or
Can
the
you put-
finance?
can't you put it on the screen right
I
now?
can, yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Uh,
I think it was in the packet. somewhere.
It-
From any item. But I think it was. But,
you never can find stuff when you really want it.
yeah, but as John said, we have a two-step process. The board has to approve making any item surplus. We have to make it a surplus property. Then John disposes of it. And then he comes back and reports to us where that stuff went, how he disposed of it, so nothing falls through the cracks.
as I said, this is the property for fiscal year 22 that was surplus. And each item was approved by the board at a previous meeting.
Okay,
So are you saying you're telling us how it was disposed of?
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
thought-
we've already approved, the board already declared it surplus, and now he's showing us what he did with it, where it went.
What did he do with it? What am
Let's
I,
go there under
The status
status.
is- Status is
solid
listed.
await and pickup,
Yes.
sold, await and pickup, got it, sorry. Picked up by I see it now, sorry.
But John, that stuff that says like picked up by HC Purchasing, what's that mean? Are they gonna turn around and resell it? Or are we giving it to them or?
No. If there's a value, they pick it up and they include it as part of their auction. And then that revenue is off of that auction is sent back to us.
So do you have any on here that have been sold and given back to us?
No, because most of these were done the latter part of this fiscal year. So like I said, they're waiting to be disposed of, but
I guess I don't remember, you do this every year, right? I just don't remember, in the past, we have had some,
we do.
okay. And you would have the amount, say, for example, next year when we get this, is it gonna have those items that were picked up by Hamilton County Purchasing on here again? And with the amount that we received?
We can, we generally don't, but we can if the board would like that, once we get a return on it, that we notify the board what that return was.
John, I think that'll be helpful to just close the loop on this at the end of the
Sure,
day.
yeah.
This is a process. We'd like to close the loop, see what kind of return we got, what money did we receive from them. That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah, that was my question on the ones that have been sold. Two questions. What was received for them? And just a question about the term sold. How exactly did that happen? Was that they put out on like Gov Deals or?
Yes, those three items were put on Gov Deals and they sold for $160 total.
I might suggest just changing that sold to auctioned, as that is the required mechanism for, when you say I sold it.
And I think I would add, it sounds like you need another column here to show recouped amount here,
But we
where
can do
there
that.
is.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And that can be on everything.
Yeah.
If you gave it away, it wouldn't be there. That'd be zero, it's a donation, and everything else that that you sold, Hamilton County or somebody else sold for you, however it works, you'll have it back.
John, can you add that modification to this form? I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, we can do that, no problem.
And
John,
change
and
sold to auction, right?
John, where's that show up? Does that show up like miscellaneous income or is there a surplus line
Yes,
item?
that's miscellaneous income.
Did the person pay you for that before they picked it up? Sold or wait and pick up, so that you probably don't have it until they come pick it up, right?
The way it works, they pay Gov Deals and then Gov Deals pays us. So
I
they're
see.
actually coming tomorrow to pick it up. So they've already paid
Okay.
Gov Deals at this point.
Okay.
Any further comment? Okay, with modifications, we'll entertain a motion to approve the FY 22 surplus property report with the recommended modifications for John. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Adams.
Adams
Second.
made the motion, second by whom?
Hyman,
All right,
Who? I'm sorry. Second, by who?
Teddy can have it.
I'll give it to Hyman.
Second by Eddie Phillips. Okay.
all right. Any further comment? Roll call, John.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Chief Hyman,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes,
Director Miller,
Yes.
Chief Tucker,
Yes.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Brad Tucker,
Yes.
Chief Beal,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes. Item number 8, other new business. John, any other new business by your staff or the board members?
No, sir.
Okay, we have, yes.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to say thank you again. We've done it many times, but to Mike Mann for his work and for keeping us legal and bringing up these changes that we don't like to make, but he makes us do. But just thank you very much, Mike, for keeping us legal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that too. Mike is always on top of it, so we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any PSEP representatives, anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Other representatives or delegations? If not, I want to thank all of you for your time today for some great work, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a motion, and is there a second?
Tucker, second.
Stand adjourned. Thank you so much. Great meeting.
I love y'all.
bye.